Here at Questionable Content, our goal is to highlight and support all communities in Charlotte.
In this very divisive time in American history, it is more important now than ever to celebrate that which actually brings us together.
One community in particular that is not just a part of the Queen City, but also part of who we are, is the Hispanic community.
We felt like there was no better way or time to celebrate such stigmatized and ostracized communities than by featuring
3 very talented individuals who remind us of the hard work, dedication, and pride that run deep within Hispanic culture.
We're so excited and so honored to be able to do this, and we hope that you find as much value listening to these as we did recording them. So with that,
we say Happy Hispanic Heritage Month.
Feliz mes de la Hispanidad.
Coming in, yeah, flex. I just wanna win, yeah. LABB, who we running with, yeah. 2233, I'm on 10 again. Okay, alright.
Welcome to another episode of the Questionable Content Podcast. I am your host, Mike Santi, and joined with me today, as always, is the amazingly talented, the super creative, and oh so wonderful Jam.
It's your girl Jam.
At Jam Sesh, 4 H's.
Everywhere.
I'm going to have to bleep that out. It doesn't matter. We keep going.
All right.
But you guys did not come here for us. You came here for the man in the title, the dynamo himself, killing the game in Charlotte culture, Latin culture, and beyond, QC Javi.
All right.
Boom.
We should have air horns.
No.
Yeah, that's what I needed. Please add it.
Post-edit. Air horns, Mike. So, like we always ask, how are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing awesome.
Nice.
Excited about this.
I'm telling you.
I'm excited to have conversations with you
I'm
guys
so
about
excited.
this.
You were just going off on like a million different rants before we started, and I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, that's why I had to start recording immediately, because I was like, too many good stories. Let's press record.
No.
But before we start that, just so all you guys know, if you haven't seen it already, please check out our previous 2 episodes highlighting other amazing Hispanic creatives that call Charlotte home. And with that really is our finale of the Hispanic Heritage Month series.
How do you feel?
You didn't know you're on
With
the finale?
me? I did not.
The big finale.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I would say we saved the best for last, but I love all of our guests equally. You know I'm telling the truth. But I am, and I have been looking forward to having you on for a while now. Jam can attest to this. Where
Deadass.
even when I started like creeping on you.
I'm like, QC Javi?
Like
QC Javi's coming?
Yeah,
What?
When I finally sent her the DM, I was like, hey.
You slid in
QC
his
Javi is coming
DMs?
over.
When did this happen?
For months.
Yeah.
But now we're friends. We play tennis. We go to restaurants.
We do.
Tennis pals.
Yeah.
We do.
He can actually play tennis though. So
It's
Yikes.
a hidden secret. Like, see,
Yeah.
we'll probably
Talented.
talk about that too.
A
Who
man of
knows?
many talents.
a
I
hidden
can see,
secret, like 10
geez.
other people. But quick fun fact, I guess, for those of you that don't really know, I played tennis kind of in high school, and then Javi like tennis up. I'm gonna also bleep that one out too, but it's okay.
Oh,
Yeah, you know, YouTube rules. It's all good.
I'm good at ping pong.
Table tennis.
It
Nice.
works. It works. No,
That's a
I'm just
thing.
gonna.
I play table tennis.
How did you? We'll get into like your bio and all that stuff, but real
Uh-huh.
quick, how did you get into tennis? Like, when did that start?
In high school, I played soccer, but as good as I should have been, I wasn't. If that makes sense.
No, it
right?
makes sense.
Because listen, I grew up in a small town called Denver, North Carolina, and I went to a high school called North Lincoln, and there wasn't many Latinos. And obviously, as one of the few Latinos, I had to play soccer,
Right.
which I did.
I feel that.
But the good thing is that the seasons between soccer and tennis, they're kind of like on the opposite
Yeah, fall and spring.
side, right?
Yeah.
So one time a friend told me, hey, there's tryouts for tennis and all these things. So do you want to come? And I was like, you
Bet.
know what? I'm not doing anything because I'm not playing soccer. So might as well go try out. And during this time, I didn't play tennis ever. I was a skater boy.
What?
So I went in there with my skate shoes.
You
and
were in Etnies to tennis practice?
Yeah. Fun, bro. Actually, I don't know if you remember the DVS shoes.
Oh, shit,
DVSs.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. I wore DVSs to tennis
Hey.
practice with my shoelaces all untied, you know,
Right.
because you'd
You
wear
know.
them like
You
that.
have to.
And
He's too cool to tie his laces, people. Like that
well,
was the
during
thing.
that time, that was the thing. That's how you
Yeah.
skateboarded.
You never
so,
tied your shoes up.
So I ended up making it on the team because not many people tried out. So it was kind of like a default. But then I started to like it.
This
Don't sell
sounds very
yourself short.
familiar.
And
Yeah.
listen, I didn't even buy a racket. A friend let me borrow a racket. And towards the middle of the season, he was like, you know what? You might as well just keep it. And I was like, oh, I have my own tennis racket. Sick. And that was my sophomore year. And from that point, I just played obviously the last 3 years. And on my senior year, I actually made it to states.
Damn.
So we
impressive.
actually got good.
That's
That actually makes sense
impressive.
because the homie's legit. Like, don't let him fool you. Don't ever let him like downplay his talent. He's good.
Wow.
Yo, the thing is, I stopped playing tennis because I did get kind of good playing tennis.
So why'd you stop?
I didn't.
Oh, I thought you said you stopped a little bit.
Eventually, post high
Well,
school.
once I graduated.
Like competitively, like, or I should say
okay, gotcha.
ultra
You have to,
competitively.
yeah.
Yeah, no.
because,
So
like,
during high school, I played through the rest of high
Right.
school,
Gotcha.
and then I graduated, and I wasn't like involved. You know, it
Became
was all
an
about
adult.
partying and all the cool things.
Oh.
So I wasn't gonna play tennis until about 2 years ago, when I was like, you know what? I still have my rackets. I still have my stuff.
he got the
Got some
itch.
And-
cobwebs, some dust.
And listen, I reached out to people like, yo, you play tennis? Yo, you play tennis?
Imagine
And
getting
nobody does.
Nobody's playing
Nobody
tennis.
does.
Like
So-
rec tennis is very rare.
Uh,
Unless you
especially
can
in
find
the
the people.
Latino community,
Yeah.
or
Oh,
unless you're like
truly.
in a big city like New York, because a lot of people in New York play tennis.
Right.
But here in Charlotte, I'd be like, yo, you want to play tennis? Be like, no, you want to go box? And I was like, no, I don't want to go box. They're like, hey, you want to go play soccer? They're like,
I guess,
Like,
but you want to play
no.
tennis is what I
Yeah.
asked you. Like,
I'm like, yo, tennis is so awesome. Like, it's so good and so fun.
I
So-
burned 1,000 calories last time we played that
So
Saturday
who asked
morning.
who here? Did you ask him again? Like, do you want to play tennis? And you
I feel
finally
like
got
I
a yes.
said it might have been. So a lot of our conversations started off with me like responding to something in his stories.
Yeah, something I'd post.
Where
As
I'd
per
be
usual.
like, he would say something, and per usual, and here we go, tips on how to make friends. Basically, because Javi was a complete stranger to me for a while. It all started off with like a fire emoji here and there, like prayer hands or clapping, whatever it is.
Funny.
To something funny or to something
right.
I'd post on my stories.
Exactly, and then
Which
eventually
I post a lot.
he does,
in
which
my
made it
stories.
super easy because eventually it would just turn into like from just emojis to like commentary on it or being like, yeah, bro, same, or some other shit like that. But then like the more he would post, the more relatable it became to me, where I was like, oh shit, yeah, I do the same thing too. So then we were just like, then it would turn to like actual conversations, and now it's to the point where like sometimes Javi will like hit me up or respond to a story or something like that, and we'll have like a mini conversation, or I'll do like vice versa kind of thing. For tennis, I can't.
I remember.
You remember?
I can tell that.
Okay, yeah, tell
Wow.
that
Me
story
too.
because like I can't remember anything about it.
So from time to time, I've gone to play tennis with my friend Frank, who moved from New York, and he's living here because of COVID and all that stuff. And I think I posted something related to tennis, and I don't know. I think it was like a week later, and you're like, "Hey, when are we gonna play tennis?" And I was like, "Dude, tomorrow at 8 a.m, come through."
Bet.
Saturday
he's-
morning, 8 in
and
the
he
morning. I
was
was like,
like-
all right.
He's like, "Okay," and I was like, "Yo, is he for real? Is he gonna show up?"
Now backstory on
This
this.
is amazing.
So when I said okay, and I was just like playing it cool, in my head I was like, God damn, I gotta go wake up at 7 something to drive it. Now luckily the courts that he picked or said he was gonna go to.
Which ones? Freedom?
No, they're like 15 minutes away from here. but
Someplace
they're,
in
like-
Mount Holly.
Yeah.
Listen, I
No,
had
it's
no
on Mount
idea
Holly.
that existed. But
It's
well, the thing
close.
is, I live around that area.
Oh, okay.
So
It was close to
those
you.
courts were like in the middle for everybody,
And
it was
nobody
like the
goes
perfect
there.
spot, and nobody was there.
Yeah.
Bet.
That's what we learned. But yeah, I woke up and I was like, and I had told friends about this too, where I was like, I already said that I was gonna go, and like I have to go. Like I can't. Just,
Yeah, you
I
can't.
can't.
He
flake
had to
on 'em.
go.
Yeah,
He
there's
had
no
to,
way he
'cause that
could
was gonna
flex.
be the first impression
Yeah.
of our friendship.
Oh, you
Exactly.
a flexer?
And even
Yeah.
he like double confirmed. He was like, "Are you sure?"
You double. Wow.
Like when he like invited me, or when I said when we are gonna play tennis, and he said the 8 a.m. thing and all that stuff, and I was like,
Because he
bet.
asked.
Yeah.
So
Relax.
if you
Yeah.
think about it, he's the one that put himself
I
in
am
that
Are you
actually-
position.
sure, bro?
So
yeah. So now I have to show up, or else like I'm an asshole.
You're
And
never-
that's like
yeah.
my first impression, where it's like, oh yeah, I'll be there, and then just
yeah, and I didn't ask like, "Oh, you play?" No, I was like, "Okay, tomorrow at 8."
yeah.
Ah.
I was
did you
like,
know-
"Okay, let's see if you really do it."
Did you know he was as good as like
I figured he was that good from what I had seen on like his stories and stuff like that.
Oh,
I was
okay,
basically just banking on the fact where I'm like, I'm average enough at tennis, like where I still got it kind of thing. I just need I need to get a new. I went the day before
to get a new racket.
To get a new racket.
He really wanted to show up
no, because my old racket was like
good.
10 years old, and I was like, I can't be like a fucking scrub out here. Like these people are not gonna take me seriously. Like this is gonna go all downhill kind of thing. And so I literally went to Dick's at South Park Mall.
Oh, you went to South Park.
Well, it was closer than
that
Carolina Place. And they had one tennis racket that number one was in my price range, but also my size. Because what's obviously with South Park, it being an affluent area and all that stuff, I was like, I'm not spending $150 on a racket where I'm like, I might use this a couple times like on weekends and stuff like that. But yeah, so all that to basically show up early, and then I get there and we Hispanic people have.
I just want to comment on that. You're like the only person to show up like hella early to this shit. Like the only Latino who's ever on time ever.
Boom.
Like I'm just very impressed.
Breaking barriers. Hispanic Heritage Month 2020.
Boom.
This is how we doing things.
We're evolving, yo.
There we go.
Because Hispanic people have a reputation for showing up late. It's fine.
Time.
It's cool.
Honestly, this is really funny though, because you guys literally made the whole like, oh, it's hard to make friends. Like you can like slide into like people that you're interested in, like romantically or whatever, and slide in their DMs. So you guys are like the living, like the friends. Like you slide in to make friends. Like you never hear that shit.
You don't gotta slide into DMs for anything other than friendship, wholesomeness on this podcast.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was. And then I show up early, and then nobody's there.
No wonder y'all get along so well.
I showed up, and nobody was there, and I was just chilling in my car, and then I see.
Well, that's why I had to show up early today. Boom.
Pay
Unconsciously, I was like, oh, I gotta be here.
This bro
early.
shows up early.
And then as much as I'm an extrovert, when I show up to like completely strange events, I'm a complete introvert.
You have to scope the place out.
I was staying in my car looking at people coming out. I was like, maybe they're here for this and that. And then I see his BMW like pull up into the spot. I was like, oh, thank God, somebody I know. So I get out, and then from there it's just history.
That's beautiful, yo.
But from there though, because even the tennis session on its own was pretty epic. And I feel like
we all like
not
competitive
whether we
as fuck.
played. No, the thing is, like I had no idea that like about 10 people were gonna show up. I invited people, and because this is at 8 a.m, I was like, yo, nobody's gonna show up.
Right.
And 10 people showed up, which had never happened.
Y'all play doubles?
We played everything. We played like Australian tennis,
tournaments,
like,
and like
Listen, I'll tell you this much. My brother is 5 years older than me, which I'm not going to disclose my age, but he's never played tennis. He showed up, and then they were playing together. And man, I was coaching my brother like it was, I don't know, the U.S. Open. Well, not because of him, but I was like, oh no, this is how you got to hold the racket, bro.
Right.
Like,
you were teaching him basics.
Yeah, I was like, yo, don't put me to shame, like being out here and all this. I was like, yo, you better hit the ball.
Yeah, no, I thought I got to like a point where I started realizing where I'm like, oh, outside of Frank and Javi, those are the only guys that like play tennis.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm good. I'm like a solid third place out of everybody here. So I just got to like hold my own kind of thing. But then when he started talking about like, because it wasn't just your brother, it was somebody else. Was it Deanna?
Yeah. Where
you guys were also telling her how to hold the racket. I was like, oh, thank God it's not me. Like,
everybody else from that point, everybody else didn't know what they were doing. But they showed up though. Oh yeah. Which, man, at 8 a.m. just to play tennis, it takes courage.
Too, yeah.
It takes
with a bunch of strangers.
Yeah.
They really must love you. Like,
yo, like they didn't even know each other either. There was a point where I think you were the one that asked, like, yo, like you guys don't know each other? Because they were like asking questions about like,
nobody knows each other.
Where do you live and all these things.
They
and
were
like, yo,
like,
so you guys don't know each other? No.
Yeah.
All from different like backgrounds and places
Friend
and
groups.
like circle groups and stuff like that. Yeah, nobody knew.
That's brave. You just bringing all your friends together from different friend groups. That's brave.
But it was to play tennis.
Yeah.
Remember? Because
it was all around tennis.
That's what I like. So it was like, oh, yo, show up to play tennis and exercise and feel good about yourself. And like,
I burned 1,000 calories. Hell yeah, man.
This was COVID, right? During COVID.
Yeah, it was what, like 2 months ago?
Okay, yeah.
I mean, anything within
also,
like
people
the
are
last
like,
year. It's 2020. Anything within the last year is basically COVID.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
So yeah. So
we had fun, and then what? We went to eat after?
Yeah, we got tacos
I got tacos after.
Because the biggest thing, so for those of you that don't follow Javi yet or anything like that, and even for those of you that like do follow him,
nice little transition here.
usually about
This is a transition.
Yeah.
It's a transition. On Fridays, Javi will usually post, and I was like, yo, I got to get into that club because every Friday, Javi's posting about tacos de regio.
Is this the one where he's like,
Girl, I'm always like that.
I'm like,
He's like their biggest promoter,
yeah,
honestly.
no. I saw that. And I was like, I need to stop by.
Yeah.
You haven't been?
No, I haven't.
We need to go.
I've been to a couple of taco places, but not that place.
Yeah, I got to be there. I got to watch you eat these because
They look good. They look
these
so
were,
good. The
I said it in,
chicharrón, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, I said it in, what was it?
Like
Problems
episode
on Problems
3 or
episode.
episode 2?
Yeah, something like that. I was like, listen, Tacos de Regio has the best tacos al pastor in all of Charlotte. Like, I will fight somebody on that.
Me too.
Because oh gosh, and they have the pineapple too, and it's.
I'm not a fan of that al pastor. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm telling you,
It's 'cause of the
you have
pineapple.
to try it. It's the best thing ever. The pineapple works in this one.
All right.
Like,
All right.
and I don't really like pineapple, and I was like, extra pineapple in this thing.
Bring that my
but
way.
yeah.
Yo, let me just say something though. Like, in order for your experience to be as awesome, you have to go with me.
Yeah.
Because I will. Listen,
He's also
I have
not
a
going to
process.
pay. They just give it to him
I
for free at this point. He just shows up and they're like, it's Javi.
Well, that's a different topic, which I'll also cover. But listen, I've put so many people onto this place that they'll go and I'll stare at their stories or their post about it, and they don't eat it right. So when I invite people,
That's why they have to go with you.
Yep.
and when I invite people, which like he says, every Friday, like no joke, I am there every
Yeah.
week,
Loyal.
every week,
I saw
every week,
Corey
every
on there.
week.
I saw Kenty on there. I was like, I gotta
I
go.
take them and I'm like, hey, order this. Don't order that. And then once you get it, this is how you're going to fix it up. And I give them step by step.
Bro.
And listen,
Bro.
It's like the Javi
It's like the
special.
Javi way.
Like, I need that in my life. Like,
It's
I got
amazing.
you. And the thing is, once they eat it that way, they're like, oh yeah, this is
Never
the best
again.
taco.
Yeah.
Like, this is it. And I get so passionate about it that, listen, I make them do it.
they need to
the
add
way
you
I
to the
tell
menu.
them.
Yeah, he'll
Low
watch
key.
you. He watches you take like your first bite. Like,
Yeah,
he'll be like,
I do. I'm like, yo, I need to
Snap a Polaroid real quick.
Yeah.
This is for my records.
No, and I'll tell him like, yo, if you don't like it this way, then you can do whatever the
right.
you want.
You at least gotta try it
after.
that way first.
Yeah.
But try it like this and just know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I was like, asada, chorizo, and all that, bro. Save it for somewhere else. Here,
yeah.
you get the al pastor,
Get the
which
trompo, man.
they don't call al pastor, they call it trompo
Okay.
because they're from Monterrey. So that's another thing that makes them different. They're not like any regular taco spot. They're from Monterrey and they're super proud on the
Regio.
way they make it,
Duh.
and that's one of the things that makes it so good. So from me bringing all these people,
They're coming back.
Listen, sometimes they surprise me with some free food. Like the
Sometimes.
time that we went. I brought
Oh,
8
what a
people.
coincidence.
No, he brought like.
Listen,
hella
I brought
people.
8
Yeah.
people in.
Yeah.
So they were like, yo, let's get Javi's food for free. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. When they
I mean,
came over,
truly,
they were
though,
like,
that's how it
they were like, are
should
these
go.
separate checks together, whatever? As soon as we said separate, they come back and they're like, don't worry about it, Javi. I was like, in that case, I'm on his tab.
we're all happy.
But yeah, so we'll take a quick break.
Is it already been 20?
Yeah,
Holy
it's already been
shit.
20.
We've been talking
Damn,
about
I talked
tennis.
so much.
We're
I
tennis and
know.
tacos. That's it. That's all we covered.
Tennis and tacos is the episode title. But yeah, we're gonna take a quick break, reset
hilarious.
everything, and then we'll be back to actually learn a little bit about Javi. And we're back from whatever break or commercial that we shot.
I don't know.
You can enjoy it. But we learned a couple things about you, but in true questionable content fashion. Let's at least start off with, where are you from, and how did you get to Charlotte?
Yeah.
So originally, my body was born in Guadalajara, Jalisco. Yeah. Which, if you follow me, you'd see that I was there 3 weeks
Right.
ago. So I was born. I wasn't necessarily raised there because at the age of 10, my mom brought me and my brother over.
Okay.
And for 1 year,
That's 10 years.
yes.
That's a lot of time. That's a long time.
That's
You would
formative
think,
years, but
but
then you're young enough where you're still like malleable.
Yeah. So then 1 year what?
So for 1 year, we lived in Asheville, North Carolina.
How is that?
From
Well,
Well,
at that point, I was 10.
Right.
So to me, it was new, but I made friends and it was kind of cool. I went to school.
why Asheville? Usually you come to meet up with family. So do you have family in Asheville?
I do. My mom has like cousins and uncles,
Okay.
which at the time they owned restaurants. So they were like, hey, come over here and then you have a job, like
Right.
almost guaranteed.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh, well, I need a job, so I'm going to go there.
Bet.
And I was 10, so it wasn't
had
like,
no
hey,
choice,
do you want to
yeah.
come?
You're a dishwasher.
Yeah. It's like, hey, you want to come?
It's
It
like,
was like,
we're
no.
going to
And he's like,
Asheville.
hey, pack up your stuff and we're going to leave in like 3 days. I was like, where are we going? What's happening? We came by bus.
Okay.
So initially we went to LA because we had family there. So we took a bus from Guadalajara to LA. And then we were in LA for like 2 weeks. And then we flew out to Asheville. But at my 10 years of age, I don't remember what that was like.
Right.
I just knew I was in some family's house for like 2 weeks. And then I was in other family's house that I had no idea.
And now it's my.
That's usually how it
And
is.
then boom, you're in the U.S. So I was like, all right,
That's
this is what it is.
So
Um,
from Asheville, how did things like transfer?
So how did the transition happen? So during the time my mom was working, she decided to leave the restaurant because I guess she wasn't making enough money. So she got a job in construction, cleaning job sites and stuff like that. So she met my stepdad, which I guess they started dating. He would come to the house. He'd hang out with us. Which that on its own is a cool story, which I can share.
Yes.
So she met up with him. They started dating. A year later, they got married, and his
Wow.
family lived here. So he bought a house, and then he was like, "Hey, we're moving to Charlotte." And then that's how I got to
A
Charlotte.
lot
That's
of life
dope.
decisions being made
Yeah,
for
though,
you at
like-
the time, but like,
Life-changing decisions, my
right?
man.
Like, how old were you then? Like 12.
At that point, I was 11.
Okay, 11.
Yeah.
You don't remember, for real? Anything?
No, I remember.
Oh, you just
a lot
remember
of things.
Yeah. I thought
There's
you
just
were-
like, I
But
would say when
you
you're
know-
that young, there's like so much that gets jumbled together because like you're still trying to add context to the situation.
Correct.
So like from at least from what I'm gathering is that like as a kid you're just like, oh sweet, we're staying with family. Now we're staying with more family. Now mom has like a boyfriend. Now mom has a husband who's my stepdad, and now we're moving to Charlotte. Like we're moving to another city somewhere else.
So the language barrier, like you were 10. So like you just picked
Yeah.
up English, like no big deal. 1 year of ESL and then you're good. Like what?
Yeah, how was that?
So I'll tell you how that was. Let me break it down. So whenever we lived in Asheville, I got enrolled in school, and half of my day was ESL, and then
Yeah.
half of my day was all the other whatever science and all that
Classes
other
and
stuff.
stuff.
Even though I didn't understand anything, I was still in class. And at the time, the only like simple words I knew in English were pollito chicken, gallina hen, lápiz pencil, pluma pen, if you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
I was screaming.
Talk about Hispanic Heritage Month. Like,
Jeez,
everybody should
yeah.
know that song. So, during my ESL time, it was all in English. During that time, I would be on the computers looking at videos and online, like, interactive, like, Spanish English things. And I also had a girl who would be kind of like my partner for whenever I needed translation and stuff. Her name was Alejandra, and she was from Ecuador. And during that time, that's when my first love happened.
I knew
I
it.
knew
I
it.
knew
I was
there's
like,
always a girl.
As soon
There's
as you said,
always a
and then
girl.
there was a girl. I said, oh.
There's
Was
always
there?
I kind of built it up that way because I didn't think that I would talk about her. But hey, since we're talking about school, yes. So
That's how I learned most
Alejandra,
of my languages.
so Alejandra was always there with me. And I was like, yo, like, she's the most beautiful girl, like, ever in the world.
And she's so helpful.
And, like, she's always with me. Like, what is this?
We're meant
Like,
to be.
So, at that age of 10,
Right.
you know, I wasn't thinking of life decisions. I was thinking just being there.
Right.
Life with Alejandra.
Correct. Oh, man, to a certain point, it did get to that point.
Oh.
So, what was the initial question? I'm sorry. I
It
forgot.
doesn't matter. We're talking about Alejandra.
Yeah, I know.
Your
I'm
first
interested
name.
in Alejandra. Where is Alejandra now?
We need to move from Alejandra.
So you
Yo,
have.
funny. I still know where Alejandra is.
That's so
Yo,
funny.
that's wild. So
We
you
can
have
break
like
that-
this.
We're
we can
gonna
break-
add her at down in the.
We can break that down towards the end of this.
So you're in a new environment. You're learning English, which is not your first language and everything like
Yeah.
that in school.
Correct. So I actually got held back a year because when I was in Mexico, I was in 4th grade. I came here and I repeated 4th grade.
So you talked about your first love, Alejandra, you learning English, all that good stuff. And then you moved back to Mexico because of Y2K. What's going on with that?
So
Everyone
we didn't
knows.
necessarily move to Mexico. We left around December because the world was going to end and we
Facts.
didn't want to die in the U.S. I feel like my mom made that decision to be like, hey, I don't want to die in this country. I want to die with my family and all this when the world ends.
That's reasonable.
So, boom, we're going to go back to Mexico. That ended up dragging to like a 3-month vacation, which during that time, I was young. I was like, yo, I'm here having the best time of my life and all this stuff. Not realizing that school was in session. And I was like, oh, well, whatever. So where do you want me to go from there?
Shoot. So let's talk about how
Your way back. You're trying to make your way back now,
Nick
right?
is looking for houses and all that stuff. And then it's time to return to the U.S. And what happens when
Okay.
you get to the border?
So it's funny to tell this story, right? Because not a lot of people know about it, and
Exclusive.
it's something. Yeah, this is the exclusive QC Javi immigration status story.
Just to wrap up Hispanic Heritage Month. And here's some real shit that happens.
Yeah, this is real life. So the crazy thing is that most people that know me now, who have no idea that this happened, right? So most people won't know, but so we go back for Y2K. Around February or March of 2000, we try to come back, and my mom has a friend with her, and we're not flying or anything. We're taking a bus back from Guadalajara, Mexico to North Carolina. During that time, North Carolina was a question mark because I thought we were coming back to Asheville. Obviously, that wasn't the case. So what led to that is we get to the border, and they start asking us questions. They stop us because we're traveling by bus, so we had to go through the border.
Right.
You get stopped. You come down from the bus. They check your legal status, and then they let you back in the bus so that you can keep going.
I think an important part to say about this is that your visas at the time were tourist visas. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
At that time, though, I didn't have knowledge of
You're
what
a
that
kid.
meant.
How are you supposed to
So
know?
I was
Yeah.
like, what? A visa? What
In
is
like
that?
true fashion, the border stops you and questions the child, and the child says,
The child that has newly learned English is being interviewed by Border Patrol. And what does this child say?
Yep. So Border Patrol starts interviewing me at 11 years of age, and they're saying, hey, so what's your name in English? And I'm like, oh, well, it's Javier Morales and all this. Like, what's your birth date? Oh, 10/31/1988. I just put
"You
that
want
out.
Halloween?"
Yeah. I just said, damn, I just put that out.
Halloween Javi.
They're like, where do you live? And I tell them my Asheville address. They're like, oh, it's this and this and this and this. And they're like, huh?
That's weird.
That's not on your green card.
They're like, hey, like your English is pretty good. Like, how do you know that? And I was like, oh, because I was in school. I went to WWE STs, and our mascot is the Rams and all these things. They're like, oh, so you go to school? They're like, what's your favorite like class and all this? I'm like, oh, I love English. I love learning and blah blah blah. Like, oh, okay, bring his mom over here. That's seriously how it happened. They're like, go ahead and bring his mom and his brother, because it was the
Bring
three of us.
everybody.
Bring the whole crew.
He's like-
let's try to cross right now with him.
Let's have a conversation with everybody. So my mom gets there, and they're like, ma'am, we just had a conversation with your kid. His English is too good, and he's letting us know that it's because he was enrolled in school. And she's like, yeah, what's up? And he's like, we were so oblivious to everything happening, so we were all acting like oblivious. We were like, sir, like, what are you talking
Yeah.
about?
What
What
is
are you
that?
asking? And even my mom was like, yeah, like, and?
Right,
And he's like,
you went to school.
he's like, ma'am, unfortunately, like, when you come visit the United States for a vacation or whatever the reasoning is, you cannot enroll your kids in school.
Right.
And then from that point, he's like, bam, 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 denied.
Everybody's
He
going
stamped
back.
our passports with a big ass sign that said, like, denied, no access to the USA. And he's like, ma'am, you have to go back. Like, you can't cross. And then we were all like, what? What just happened? And I've had to live with that.
Do you
for
still have
my
that passport?
That passport? No, I'm sure.
One.
You should make it your profile picture.
You
just
know
for like
what?
A week.
My mom may have it.
Yo.
I should be able to be like, yo, mom, do you still have that declined passport? That one I got us in trouble for? Because I need that. I need that to be in my biography. A picture of it. That's
You
what
can't
made
stop
me.
greatness.
That's,
Yeah.
That's
Right.
That's a life event that shaped who I am today.
And that's when Javi learned that he likes to talk because they're like, "Oh, interview? Let's go!" Like,
Say
bro,
yes.
I'll tell you everything, bro.
Yo, that was my official first interview.
Damn.
Boom, denied.
No pressure.
You did
But-
so well
Yeah,
that you
so well.
convinced them not to let you in. That's great.
That's the best. So-
Listen, I've never thought about it that way, but it's true. My
Same.
first initial
you did too
interview
well.
that sent me right back to Mexico. So from that point, you know, my mom had a job to come back to do. During that time, she was dating Nick, and I guess they got in touch with each other, and they were like, "Hey, we need to come back, and we got to do these." And I don't know the logistics of it. All I know is that a week later, we were at a different entrance of the border, and we were at somebody's house. And then that somebody came up to us, and they were like, "Hey, you kind of look like this guy. Oh, you look like this guy. You like this guy." And handed me a green card of some random kid that I guess I kind of looked like. And they're like, "Hey, you got to learn this name, this birth date, and this
Right.
address." And I was like, "Why? Why do I need to know that?"
Because we about to do some fraudulent shit.
It's like every 18-year-old trying to get into the club.
Yeah. But
except
I was
he was
11.
an innocent 11.
But I was 11. I was like, "Yo, what is
this?"
Like, who is this kid?
So you're learning all this stuff. Fast forward to, I guess, the next day.
So
Oh.
I guess so. So we crossed the border. They put us in this hotel room with like 20 other people. And then they're all like different random people. No families, only my mom and her 2 kids, me and my brother. So we're in this room. And I guess through the terms and conditions of the
Whatever your mom
crossing
set
of the
up.
border.
The coyote contract.
Yeah,
Oh,
whatever
shit,
the
coyote
terms,
contract.
whatever the terms and conditions were to that deal,
Right.
they were supposed to feed us, and they didn't. And we had already been there for like 10 hours. My mom was like, "Yo, my kids need to eat and all these things," and she found out that the other people that were there hadn't eaten anything either, so she decided to order like 20 pizzas for all of us.
Boss mom.
All of us. Yo, obviously I didn't know my mom had money like that. But
Yeah,
she was
20
like,
pizzas
"You know
is
what?
No joke. Like,
That's like $200.
Well, you're talking about we just crossed the border, right?
right.
So it's like, why should she have money like that?" But she did.
Exactly.
So we start eating. People start eating. We're like mingling and all these things. So the sister of the coyote that crossed us over, who lived in whatever city we were, because I don't know if it was Houston or whatever.
Some neighboring town.
Correct, some border town. She calls my mom. She's like, "Man, what are you doing? Why are you feeding these people and all these things?" And they start arguing over the phone and all that. And she's like, "Listen, you are not feeding my kids. That wasn't part of the terms and conditions." And like, there's other people here and they can't eat with like other people and not offering them anything. Like, you're not doing your job. You're not holding your part of the bargain. So I had to take charge. And she's like, "Ma'am, you cannot do that," and all that. So my mom's like, "Listen, like, I'm already across the border. I'm in a hotel room. If I need to walk out, I'll just walk out. Like, who do you think you're talking to?"
Right. You already did the hard part for me. I can just
Correct.
leave.
Like, I
And
read
they
the
were
fine
like,
print.
"No, ma'am, do not do that. Don't even open the windows because the border and everything, the immigration is outside and all these things." And she's like, "Well, I already did." And she was like, "And you know what? This is going to come out of the rest of the amount that I got to pay you because this is unfair." And then from that point, we just kept eating our pizza. And
Everybody's just like-
we were just all chilling.
Listen to this phone call like,
Yo, so then we hear a door knock, right?
oh, shit.
And it's the lady. And she's like, "Who's the lady that I was talking to on the phone?"
Me?
And then my mom's like, listen, she wasn't like, "It's me." But she's like, "What's up?" So my mom walks out of the room. They talk for about 10 to 15 minutes. And then my mom walks back in and she's like, "Yo, you two, like, come with me." And we're like, "Yo, what is happening? Are we about to watch like a fight or something? She needs a ref." And then they took us to her house. So we go to this lady's house, and I'm playing PlayStation with her kids, and her and my mom are having a conversation like they're best friends. And then she's like, yo, you guys want to go to the mall? And then she took us to the mall in her car, and we were just hanging out with them. And then she bought me clothes. She bought my brother clothes. She bought my mom clothes. We've got shoes. And then she bought me toys, which during that time, I'll tell you what toy it was. So you know how there was those tech deck skateboards?
I know it.
Yeah.
How did I know?
And you know how they
there?
had those like
The
little
skate
finger
park?
bikes?
Oh, the bikes?
Yeah, she bought me a bike.
Bro.
So she's like, hey, whenever you go to the airport, you're going to be fresh with your clothes and all these things so that you don't look suspicious. And then just act like you're just going on a flight
Yeah.
with your toy. And I was like, oh, I can do that. So you mean I can be normal and then just play with this thing?
This is like the
It's like,
Mexican
yeah, that's what
Annie
you-
story.
He's like, yo, that's what you got to do. So the next day we were on a flight. So from that point, nothing was delayed. She got us a flight. We flew into North Carolina. I was playing with my little finger bike. I was the happiest person in the world. And then boom, by that time, Nick had bought a house for us to live in. And that's how I came to Charlotte.
Jeez.
That is the most interesting coming to Charlotte story that we've had so far, I think. Honestly, like,
Javi makes it to Charlotte.
Yeah.
What happens when you're...
the rest is history.
Yeah, I mean, well, there's some history to get into and all that stuff.
For sure.
But for intents and purposes, there's going to be a part 2. Calm down.
Oh,
y'all
made
should
it to part
know.
2, guys.
Y'all should know already, when we have a guest that likes to, like, talk, we're going to have more than just one part. So we'll eventually revisit your childhood and things like that. But so you finally get to Charlotte. Fast forward to adulthood and everything like that. Basically, how does QC Javi become a thing? Like the brand itself, the social media handles, things like that. Like, where did that come from?
So QC Javi started last April. Last
Dude.
April.
That's amazing.
But before that, there had been a lot of attempts and failures before getting there.
Okay.
So whenever YouTube started, I always wanted to be a YouTuber. And I always kept up with the Mexican YouTubers and the American YouTubers. And I was like, oh, I want to do that. I want to do that. Blah, blah, blah. And I would record myself and then I'd hate it. So I'd never post anything.
Sounds about right.
So
I know the feeling.
as much as you just mentioned that I talk a lot, it
You used
wasn't
to
always
hate it.
like this. It wasn't always like this. I've had to build this
Right.
and be comfortable with my public speaking and stuff like that. So during the time when I wanted to be a YouTuber, I wasn't having conversations. I wasn't recording correctly. I had the dream of doing it, but not knowing how to do it.
Okay.
So through that, I started creating a thing called Javi's blog. And that was the first thing. And then I was like, yo, this is stupid. And actually my first one was called What I See, because it was supposed to be about me going to concerts, me going to events, and it was written out WARAI and then the word see.
Okay.
Which in Spanish, it was kind of read what I see, but in English, it meant what I see.
Yep.
If that makes sense.
I got you.
At that time, it made sense to me. Listen, girl. Because
You
it was,
saw my face. Please zoom in on that. I was
Yeah,
like,
I'm going to cut to that immediately.
yeah,
Like,
because remember I said it's about what I see when I go to events and do all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I even would put my money into it, running contests for people to make me logos. I hired graphic designers and all these things because the dream was, bro, I need these things to be able to make these videos and stuff like that.
Right.
sorry, just like a timeline here. What year is this? Because like, it definitely plays into. You said when YouTube first started, like 2009.
2010.
okay, yeah.
So you're
I would say
basically like
that.
innovating when this shit. Because like, you
Yeah,
know,
no, it was like at the beginning of,
Of YouTube.
everybody.
Yeah.
All the big YouTubers were starting, and especially in Mexico, because I wanted to do entertainment, right? So I consider myself to be a funny guy, not the funny guy, but a funny person. So I always wanted to make comedy and sketches and all these things because that was the content that I was taking in. And so I invested money and I never put videos out. And then I'd have contests where I'd be like, yo, if I reach 100 followers, I'll put some content out. and I reached 100 followers because people were supporting me.
Right.
And then I'd be like, yo, if I get to 1,000 followers, I'll put content out. And then that just kept dragging
You're
and
just baiting
dragging and
them the whole
dragging.
time?
Yo, but people were super supportive because they knew me and they knew what my intention was. And I never did it. So
That sounds about right.
yeah. So I was always into music. I was always into going to concerts, going to festivals. So then I decided to open up my platform just for music called Latino Alternativo, which from that point, that's when I started to get the knowledge and be able to like interact with people because I wanted to promote Latin rock bands, which I had known all my life here growing up. Like, well, there's a few. There's like 4 or 5 who have been playing in the city. And I wanted to promote them, get them to bigger places. And I also wanted, my dream was to be able to go to festivals and for them to pay me to go do that.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, yo, that's sick.
Yeah.
And it kind of got to that point because I was so involved with music that people from different states in the country were reaching out to me. I was traveling to different states and meeting people that I was able to get in really, really good contact with record labels, bands, PR agencies, and all these things that would send me content to post. And then, yes, they did start sending me to concerts like Riddle Fest in Chicago or like Tropicalia in LA. Whenever it comes down to rock, let's say Miami is not the biggest place, but I did travel down from time to time because there would be like one epic concert there.
Right.
And during this time, I had a good job. Like my 9 to 5 was good enough that I could take the days off and boom, just go and enjoy and take photos
So
and create
dope.
content. And that content in particular was just about the bands. Yeah, ask me. What's up?
Like the vibes, the music, the like event, like what exactly? Like okay, so
Or just the band itself.
yeah, explain to me like what was your like you were sent there for one job, right? And what was that? What were you supposed to bring back with you? Like
Take photos of the festival,
Take photos?
of the band, reach out to the bands.
that's it.
Pretty much.
Have a good time.
Wow.
Hell of a time. Loved it. So
Was this
your
side
initial
gig? Sorry.
listen, yeah, it was a side gig
Okay.
because initially I wanted to become a media outlet for bands and music.
Got you. Okay.
And I had my job that funded that to a certain extent. I bought my camera and I would travel my flights and all that stuff. So your initial question was, how did QC Javi start? So because Latino Alternativo was all about bands and all these other things that weren't particularly me, I was like, yo, I need to bring back Javi's blog and do something about me. And that was the first name that
hit. You're like this is it.
well,
no.
I didn't think too much about it, but I was like, yo, Javi's blog. I won't overthink it. I'll make it Javi's blog. And then I started doing the same thing again. Hey, if I reach 100 followers, I'll do this. If I do it. And I still didn't do it.
Jeez.
I was so busy with Latino Alternativo because it was gaining so much traction that Javi's blog kind of died out. So as Latino Alternativo was getting me all these awesome gigs outside of Charlotte, April of last year is when I went to this event called Level Up. So there was this group of creatives that were kind of like a collective, and they had an event called Level Up, and different influencers and creators met up. Okay, so on April 1st, these group of creatives wanted to host a creative event called Level Up, where different content creators, influencers, and stuff like that were going to gather. And I invited my friend, and I saw some people that I knew. But by this time, all the creatives and all the people that were there didn't know who I was. Okay? So after a few drinks, I was like, yo, I cannot stay with my friend. I need to go network with these people.
Yeah.
They need to know who I am. By this time, I had already gone to so many festivals. I've worked with so many bands, worked in LA and done all these things. I had gone to the Latin Grammys to where I was like, yo, why don't these people like know who I am? And obviously they weren't part of the Latin music scene or anything, but to be there, I was like, yo, they should at least know that I'm from Charlotte and that I do all these things. So I made a commitment to myself that from that day, I was going to network as much as I could. So from that event, I started to meet people, and they're like, so what do you do? I'm like, oh, I run this Latin alternative thing, blah, 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 blah. And then I was like, at this point, I had already changed the username from Javi's blog to QC Javi. So when I was introducing myself, I wasn't telling them, hey, follow Latino Alternativo, because that was totally irrelevant to them.
Right.
They were white, they were black.
It was
they
so
didn't care
niche
about
where
Latin
you're just
alternative
like,
music.
Yeah.
So I said, hey, go follow QC Javi. This is where it's at. So for that whole month of April, okay, I got reached out to by a lot of the people that were there that I made a commitment to myself to not say no. So the next day I got hit up. Hey, do you want to come to this restaurant? Hey, do you want to come to this event? Hey, do you want to come network here? Hey, do you want to visit this chocolate factory? Or, yeah, this local chocolate factory. And I always said yes, yes. And I was so conscious about it that from that point forward, that's when QC Javi started rolling and people started recognizing me from that. And then that's when I was like, okay, Latino Alternativo needs to take a break because I need to set my foot in Charlotte and show it what is up and what I do. And through trial and error from all these other platforms that I had already failed, the ones that I had been successful on, I kind of learned how to be good at it. And that's when I started putting all my effort into QC Javi, which
So you were consistent
has gotten me here.
with the other platform, though, right? Like
During that
Latina
time, yeah.
Alternativa, right?
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
was just-
because
it was just
I
the
didn't have to
audience.
put my face in it. So
Got you. It was literally
It was
just like
easier being like the man behind the camera.
correct. So remember how all my other platforms I wanted to create videos and be the man up front?
yeah,
Well, this one didn't require that, so it was all about effort. Boom, I put the effort in.
put it stuff
Right.
But here's the flip side. Now I wanted to establish myself as QC Javi. Boom. I had to make the conscious decision to put my face out there.
So how was that? Like, were you actually ready to like put your face and be in front of the camera? Because I'm always like the one behind the camera. So the moment that I'm in front of it, I'm like, it takes me like a minute to get acclimated. But like, it feels like you almost were like you were ready for that. Like,
I've done a lot of self-observation
Yeah.
through the years of wanting to do this, that I've realized that my own insecurities have stopped me from doing it. And what are my insecurities? Oh, well, I don't look like a TV artist, or listen, my voice was the worst thing for me, right? Because I've always been knocked about my voice, it being so girly and all these things. And I'm a mama's boy because my mom's a badass, but
for sure.
but that to a certain extent has made, I don't know, my voice is just the way it is. And I've learned to accept that. So from that moment forward was, hey, you got something to do. Don't worry about your voice. Don't worry about your looks. Because if people like your content, they're going to enjoy it no matter what your voice is. They'll get accustomed to that because that's what they're going to learn.
Right. And that's you to begin with. And I think there's a part of it where it could just be me, but scientifically, you sound different to yourself than you do to other people. And it's not until you get that weird flip it onto a camera or whatever, and you're like, I sound like that. So like you already don't like the sound of your voice.
Correct.
But then on top of that, now you're hearing a new version of it and you're like, oh, here we go.
or you're hearing other people talk shit, and it's like you actually like stepped out of that and was like, fuck it, I don't care what anybody else to say or myself has to say, and like did the damn thing, which is like a big step. I think it's like literally what stops someone from being good and like great.
Yeah.
Towards the transition of me focusing on QC Javi, I was already kind of sick and tired of not putting my face with Latino Alternativo, that I started doing it. And then that made the transition a little bit easier. So fun thing is, or a fun fact, is that now when I was traveling to Chicago, people would recognize me and be like, yo, you're that Latino Alternativo guy. Can we get a picture with you?
Nice.
And I was like, yo, people in Chicago know me and people in Charlotte don't.
Mama made
What
it.
is happening? Yeah, like for real. And it wasn't just one person. It was multiple
It was enough to be a
people.
thing.
Multiple people for me to realize that, yo, as much as they like my content, now that they're seeing my face and they see it makes it more personal.
It does.
And
It does.
now they want to talk to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I started putting my face more in Latino Alternativo, and then I was like, yo, I got to do it in QC Javi if I want to do something here in the city. So if you look at my profile and all the things that I do, if I have a taco in one hand and a drink or whatever, boom, my face is in it.
Yeah.
My face is always out there because people relate to it a lot more, and that's why they enjoy my content.
Oh yeah.
No matter if I don't want to say anything wrong, but I can be holding a box of emptiness, but as long as I'm smiling and I'm enjoying it, people will like it and they'll react to it.
And
Not to say that I've done that,
It's that signature smile.
but listen,
With the shades.
people, the shades.
I was
So
like,
at the
yo.
beginning, the shades became a thing,
Yeah.
and I was like, yo,
I fuck with the shades.
It's like a shield.
Yeah.
It's like, oh,
and
I
that
get to-
was the shield. That's
A
what
lot of
made
artists
me
do it.
That's
Yeah.
what made me come out of my comfort
Yeah.
zone at the beginning. And then it's funny because if you guys know my friend Gina, CLT Desserts, we started hanging out. Okay, so we met at that April 1st thing, and then like a week later she invited me to the chocolate factory because she covers just desserts. And then we got along so well that we were together that whole day when we went to the chocolate factory. From then we went to the People's Market and we were talking, we were chatting. And then from that point, she started inviting me to more and more events because she was already kind of a little more established than I was. Obviously, again, nobody knew me. And I would always go with her and I'd always be like, yo, take my picture with the shades. and then on top of that, I'd be like doing this move, which if you see this is
Signature move.
well,
throwing the shot
at the beginning, I was like, yo, I'll do this to be cool. But then I was like, yo, everybody does this. Like, that is not cool at all. Why are you doing that? And then I was like, yo, just be yourself. So now my signature move or pose is just to smile and,
Yeah.
and enjoy what I do.
And that's a big thing where I think people get distracted by the idea that like, oh, I have to build this company, I have to build this brand and all that stuff. But then you, especially when it comes to creatives, you start to realize that if it's going to be in the area of like entertainment or influencing and something like that, people are more drawn to the person than they are like a brand idea because it's a lot more relatable. It's like, oh, I can see that it's a guy behind here, not some like corporation or team of like people and a PR rep and all this other stuff. It's like, no, it's Javi. Like what you're getting is Javi. And I think what draws a lot of people towards you is the fact that you're very much authentic in how you present yourself on social media compared to how you are outside of that.
Like even obviously we'd never met before, like literally right now. So like looking at your Instagram, I was like, oh, I wonder what he's gonna be like in person. But you're just like you are on your Instagram. It's like that's what you get whenever which is
correct.
authentic.
And that's something that I've had to learn because remember when I was watching YouTube and I wanted to be this big YouTuber and stuff like that, I wanted to be like them and copy them and mimic them. And that didn't get me anywhere because that wasn't putting me out of my comfort zone. That was putting me in a position where I had to copy somebody else and act like not me.
Right.
So I learned that I needed to be myself in order for people to so I wasn't acting.
Yeah.
Because when you act a certain part, like you don't enjoy it as much.
You become a character.
And remember I told you that I had a decent paying job. This was something that was a dream, but it wasn't funding what I was doing. So I didn't have any like responsibility towards it.
So like why the fuck?
So then I was like, why do I have to pretend for something that's not paying my bills? How about I stop pretending and then see if it picks up? And boom.
It picks up.
And then boom. Sandwich pictures. Tacos everywhere.
Left and right.
Beers. Whatever it is. Listen, one thing that I've said, even when I was in Latino Alternativo doing that, was no matter what I do, I'm going to have the most fun. You can outwork me. You may have better quality. You may have better photos, better video, but you're not going to have as much fun as I am having.
That's awesome.
So
That
then
really
from that
is.
point, it was like, okay, you're going to take my picture? Boom. I'm going to show you how much fun I'm having, whether it's in Charlotte, whether it's in Mexico, and all these things. That is who.
That's such
I
a
am.
dope like mindset. Just like moving forward, I feel like that's just how I'm gonna be. Like whenever I'm feeling insecure or anything, just like as long as I'm having fun, as long as I'm having fun, it is what it is.
So number one, there is 1,000% going to be a part two.
Yeah.
Because Well, first of all, we don't want you to sit here. I want you to sit here for hours kind of thing, but I know you have lives and things like that. We know you have lives to get to. So we won't monopolize all your time.
Be involved with everything that I do. That's your sole, only purpose.
Is to support us. But what we always tend to do towards the end of our shows, there's obviously going to be a part 2, but more importantly, we bring people on here to highlight Charlotte talent, but to also remind the viewers at home as to why Charlotte is such a cool place to live, to be, to really participate in the community. So with that, we'll start off with what makes Charlotte special to you?
Sorry. To me, Charlotte is special because it's a place that I feel doesn't have bad habits yet. I feel a lot of people can express themselves, make something out of it, and then people will like it if it's genuine. People coming from other states and always have a bad feeling about Charlotte, and it's I'm sure you guys have heard this thousands of times.
From New York.
New York is better. Miami's better. LA is better. And I've done all these things. But people never go back once they're in Charlotte.
Very true.
Right? So I believe that being able to be yourself in the city is what makes it beautiful. No matter what. No expectations are set. And there's still a lot of freedom to be able to, if you want to be a YouTuber, there's room for it. If you want to be a musician, there's room for it. If you want to be a rapper, if you want to have a fashion brand or anything, there's still room for it because nothing has been established here. And as many, there's so much room just to be successful here. And that's why it's beautiful. Yes, the traffic sucks. Yes, when it snows, it barely snows.
And the whole city shut down.
Correct. But that's part of what makes it beautiful. Sometimes, and I'll say this 1,000 times, people take for granted that 1 inch of snow, but you're able to get so much rest during that one day of not having to work
right.
and then not dealing with traffic that you should be grateful for Charlotte because that's how we do it here.
Yeah. I mean, and to that point, I feel like it's part of, it's almost like this early Hollywood or Wild Wild West thing where it's Charlotte's still a place where, because it's not established yet, you can still make something of yourself, but it's not this hustle and bustle, dog eat dog kind of world. It's a safer space to come over and make yourself whatever you want.
Correct. And more than just safe space, I think the key to what you just said is that you can truly do whatever you want. Sometimes, depending on where you live, you get put in these spaces that you may not be the happiest, but here you don't have that pressure. Here you can truly, if you, I'm not going to go down a list again and be if you want to be a cook and all these things, but at the end of the day, if whatever your passion is, you're able to work on your passion here and be able to elaborate it and be successful with it. That's what makes Charlotte beautiful.
Beautiful.
That's
awesome. That was great.
Jam, take us home.
Well spoken. One question I always ask, I have to ask. You've been here for a minute in Charlotte. Did you say, oh God?
Yeah.
It's not that bad. I need to know. All right. If money wasn't an obstacle, everything else wasn't an obstacle, what neighborhood, you had to be here for the rest of your life, what neighborhood would you reside in? That's
surrounding areas do
Javi's
count.
Here.
So I'm talking we within 485, but if it's close enough and it's still a Charlotte neighborhood, it counts.
So I'll be completely honest. If I could live, because you said if money wasn't an issue,
if it wasn't,
I would love to live uptown. Why? Because as a creative, I feel like there's so much room to be able to create content and embrace the city unlike anywhere else inside the city, right? So I feel like I could create content every day that would be different just by living here.
City vibes.
And listen, and if money is not the issue, then that means I can buy groceries at the most expensive little market.
Whole Foods, get that shit delivered.
Yeah, exactly. And not have to worry about all that.
I'm going to the farmer's market uptown every weekend. That's what I'm doing.
Yo, So I would want to live uptown. My second option would be somewhere like Plaza Midwood or Noda because of the culture and all that stuff and the vibes.
Yeah.
But you asked for the first one, so the first one would be
proximity
uptown.
to everything, the
Uptown,
center,
baby.
everything.
You heard that? All the uptown apartment complexes, hit them up.
What it do? As I continue to give you guys more information about where I live without actually telling you where I live, now you know I live uptown. But yeah, so with that, guys, we appreciate it so much.
Thank you.
There's obviously going to be many, many parts. Expect
Who
Javi.
knows? 2, 3, 4, 5.
Expect Javi to be a repeat guest, okay? Because there's so many stories that we can go over and we can tell. But yeah, thank you again. Where can the people find you?
Obviously on Instagram through QC _ JAVI, because most people don't even know that Javi is with a J.
Javi?
Yeah.
So,
Hispanic Heritage Month. Learn Spanish. Javi.
Yes. In Spanish, a J, you say it like an H. Thank you. And obviously you can follow me through Latinos in Charlotte, which is another platform we can go into at a later time. On Facebook, QC Javi. And that's it. QC Javi. Just look for QC Javi with a J.
Javi.
That's really what you gotta.
You literally everywhere.
You
You just gotta remember the J.
Thank you again for coming out. For my co-host is Jam Sesh 4 H's on all social media.
Everywhere.
Mike Santi 18. Don't forget to follow the podcast at _questionable content _ on Instagram. Look up the Questionable Content Podcast on Apple Podcasts. Soon to be on Spotify and wherever else you can find podcasts. But yeah, guys, with that, we will see you another time.
Bye. Thank you. This has been a great experience.